When was
Sorry?
the last time we probably saw each other? Was it after I'd left the band, and I think it might have been at the Budgie gig at the Lees or something like
Yeah,
that.
it might have been. Yeah, it might have been. Um, I know we went to the 10-nighter marathon with Rush, the Hammersmith Odeon.
Yes.
And I think that might have been, I don't know if that was 80 or 81. I really can't recall. What have you been up to? Fill me in
How
on
long
the
have
last
you got?
42 years.
How long have you got? Yeah, well, John and I we had one failed attempt at writing and doing something together. Oh, probably would have been back in the early 2000s,
Right.
but work just got in the way. I was working. I've been a lorry driver for a number of years, but in those days I was doing long haul and I was
Yeah,
away a
right.
lot. Never, never got off the ground really. So
No.
second time round, um, it's actually happened this time.
Yeah. And with a bang. I mean,
Yeah, well, I
it's
think
different, but it's great.
it's it's probably the way that if you could turn back the clock and if I'd stayed with the band and the band had kept going, it's probably somewhere where we might have ended up.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
but obviously that it's all
Uh,
ifs and buts,
Yeah, that's
maybes.
right. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, parallel universe.
Yeah.
Yeah. For people who don't know you, tell us a bit about Ian Devlin. And John tells me you started as a drummer.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, but you play guitar, you play keyboards, you're a singer-songwriter, you produced the album, the last album. So tell us, how how did you move from drums to a multi-instrumentalist?
I guess I'm a musical geek is the first thing. Um, Ever since I was a kid, um, pestering my parents, I was always walking around tapping things. So I always had a natural sense of rhythm anyway. And I came from a musical family, both my mother and father
Right.
were music. Um, so the natural thing was drums for me. But because unlike the kids of today that have got electric drum kits and that can rehearse with, um, back in the day you couldn't. So
No.
my poor parents and neighbours. Um, but although I started out as a drummer, my first instrument that I actually learned was the piano. So I was a piano player before anything.
Right.
Um, but I guess I wanted to be the next John Bonham or something like that.
Hmm.
And then I don't know why I went away from it. I probably wasn't getting enough girls. Drummers don't drummers don't get girls.
So you moved on to went back to keyboards, or you went to guitar
Oh,
next?
keyboards, and then I picked up a guitar. And funny enough, um, the person that helped me a lot when I was learning the guitar was Phil,
Right.
because we lived two doors down from each other,
Yeah, right.
um, and we used to mess around with the drums and guitar. And we had another school friend of ours who played bass. And then I said to Phil, "Oh, I've just bought myself this electric guitar, and I've learned a few chords." And he actually showed me a few chords and gave me a few tips and helped me on the way to.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, Phil was there right at the beginning of playing the guitar, really.
Wow. I didn't know that. So you've got all these roles. Which one do you think is Ian Devlin, and which do you enjoy the most?
songwriting.
The songwriting?
Yeah, the initial thrill of coming up with an idea and seeing it work. I
Yeah.
think
Ah,
um, whether it's a song I've written myself or something John and I have put together where he
mhm.
might have a bit, might have a bit, and then you suddenly see it forming into a song. I think
Yeah.
that's the that everything else after that is the hard work. The initial thrill is
The thrill of the
right.
hunt.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So John tells me you've got a whole bunch of songs that because you've been writing constantly for all these years. He
I've
says
got
you've
a
got
back catalogue of hundreds
right.
and snippets of music and lyric ideas and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Uh, and we often meld, well, quite a few of the songs on this album we're working on now are where John's got a bit and I've had a bit kicking around for a long time, and we've put them together. And um, so there's probably more of that going on this album than on the Back in the Game album.
Yeah, right. So how does that is it like a collaborative process? He says, I've got my bits, and you say, well, I've got this, or he says, I've got this, and you go, oh, I've got a bit that might go with that. Is that kind of how that works? Or
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. It's difficult because John's retired and I'm
Mhm.
not. I'm still
Yeah.
working. So we tend, like today, Saturdays, um, we tend to get together every couple of weeks, and um, we'll get our ideas together, um, form the shape of the song. Then
Mhm.
John will go away. I'll knock up a basic backing track,
Yeah.
and then John's got parallel equipment at home, so I'll make up a stereo backing track for him. He
Mhm.
takes it, works on his vocals and his bass lines, records it as flat as possible, so I can do anything that I want to do with it.
Yeah.
Um, then he'll bring it back to me, and we'll go through it. And sometimes I'll say, "What about go away again and have another go?" And that's the process. It's a bit slow, but it's it's the way that we have to work at the moment,
Yeah.
until such time as I'm not um, working full time, which
Mhm.
hopefully isn't too far away.
Yeah.
So, um, but that's roughly how the process works. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Right. And is there anything that you've written from scratch, where the tracks on back to the game back in the game that were completely fresh, or are they mostly tracks that have had some sort of have already sort of been started? Is that how that worked, or were there any that were completely fresh?
Well, Black Sheep, Black Sheep was a song that I'd written and demoed,
Yeah, right.
um, and then John heard the song, said he liked it.
Hmm.
Uh,
Black sheep, can you forgive me all my sins? Living life without a home, it ain't easy. Living on my own. Forgiveness, heartfelt apologies I've sent. Living life without a friend is never easy. Living on my own.
and then, of course, it was a little bit more poppy when I wrote it and demoed it. But then, as soon as we put John's voice on it, it changed it, suggested
Yeah.
things. He tweaked a few of the lyrics to suit the way that he sings,
Yeah.
and it morphed into the Blacksheep that you hear on the album now, which is far better than the demo that I made. And there's a couple of other songs. Waterfall were ones where John had a little seed, and then I built on it a bit, and then worked on it. And but I don't think there's anything on Bitger that I can think of where we consciously sat down in the same room and said, "Let's write a song together." We never seem to have the time. Hopefully, in the future we will, but really have the time for that.
Yeah, yeah. So, as we're talking about back in the game, favorite track?
Probably Blood on Your Hands.
Right. Okay, mine too. Well, one of my favorites. I do like Black Sheep as well, actually, quite a lot. I like the idea behind that. So why Blood on Your Hands?
It's well, the story of the song, before I tell you why, the story of the song was John had the lyrical idea, you know, which I think he told you about in his and he presented me with a little snippet, less than 30-second demo. I then I said, aha, well, I've got a bit that I think will work with that I've had kicking around for, and we discussed what we wanted the song to be, and I suggested maybe we should have beautiful ugly aspects in it.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Once we'd started arranging and recording the song, so then that's why in the chorus parts you've got the nice clean line jangly guitars. Then in the verses and in the middle eight you've got the sort of King Crimson type, you know, trying to make something a little bit ugly and evil. That was the idea behind it. And it's not my normal style of playing, so I was pleased the way it turned out.
It's fabulous. Yeah.
Just the overall everything about the song. It's a song that is 100% 50-50 Devlin Everett down the middle.
Yeah.
Both input into it, and it turned out well.
Yeah. Very very memorable. The piano is in it is reminiscent of the old Denigh.
Smile on your face, but there's blood on your hands.
I think.
Oh, you mean the doom.
Yeah.
That comes from John's seed, because the little seed that John gave me, which had his vocal, he had a little bass figure on, which was sort of suggesting that. Obviously, I changed the keyboard keys a little bit, but that came from John's bass figure.
It sounds like old Denigh, and the guitar sounds like John and I talked quite a lot about Blood on Your Hands. I think one of the last one or the one before, very not a Denigh guitar solo, or a guitar motif, but fantastic. It's how did you come up with that? It sounds like a piano piece that's been played on guitar to me.
It's I won't get too technical, but I want something weird and ugly.
Yeah, okay.
Here it comes again. There's my blood on your hands.
the 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 basic source is a Boss synthesizer guitar pedal,
Oh, okay.
which I recorded dry, and I did various weird bits and pieces. And then the advantage of the digital age is that I was able to go through, cherry pick,
Yeah.
and make up the solo and stuff.
Yeah.
But then what gives it its real weirdy sound is I then delayed the whole guitar signal, recorded that, but then I digitally brought it back in front of the guitar sound, then
Okay.
put that reversed reverb, so it was like sucking itself up all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The
Yes.
delay
Yeah.
going into the guitar, and that's how I got that weird effect. And I will use that again because it was quite
Yeah.
successful. I think the thing is, obviously, where I've been off and done my bits and pieces. I've worked with a lot of engineers and producers and other musicians, so it's all
Yeah.
you pick up things, you know.
Yeah.
I was always the one in whatever band that I played in. I was always the one that could stick it out in the studio, and I'd sit next to the producer or the engineer, and I'd chat to them. I was always watching what they were doing and asking them questions, and because it always interested me, which I suppose is why I've got into the producing side of things. And I think that's what's coming out now with John and I's work. We're trying to be a little bit old school Denigh, but with modern influences.
Yeah. Well, it was a few years
You
ago
know,
now, and
even though we're in our 60s,
yeah. Yeah, age is almost irrelevant, really, isn't it, when it comes to music, when you think about it? I mean, there's a, you know, you look at some of the bands that are still out there these days, it's, you know, it doesn't, as long as the creativity's there, it's, no, what you're bringing to it is experience, which is exactly what you just described, is you've had all these experiences and you've learned from other people, and those served your apprenticeship. Now it's time to be more of a craftsman, which is, you know, it's just fantastic. So what sort of musical influences are yours? Where have you been influenced? What were the sort of like the big bands for you? Because I know we both quite liked
very,
Rush, but
yeah, very similar to John, because we were early 60s kids,
right.
Beatles, songwriters like James Taylor. Probably because of the piano aspect, I
Yeah.
used to listen to a lot of Elton John as well.
Yep.
More his earlier stuff than his later stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Guitar players, the usual, I suppose. Your Jimi Hendrix and your Jimmy Page.
Yep.
Although Bill Nelson, I've
Yeah.
always had a great respect for Bill Nelson,
Yep.
Bebop Deluxe, and
Yep.
his stuff he did after that, Red Noise, and yeah, he's probably because he's another one. He can come up with something really unusual. He can come up with something very melodic, and I
Yep.
think
Yeah, I get that
that's,
completely.
and then your
Yeah.
usual and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
very similar to John. Well, all us guys from Denigh.
Yeah.
Phil, although Phil could sometimes he had a bit of an eclectic taste for music, which was a good thing. He got into the punk era quite a bit, whereas John and I didn't particularly, but it all had that bearing on the band, you know, that made it a little different, I think.
Yeah. What's got you excited about getting Denigh up and running again? Is it an outlet for these hundreds of songs that you've got after
It
such a long time?
Yeah, it is. It's just something that I don't know. It's almost as if everything's gone full circle. I think, as John said to you the other week, we're doing it because we can.
Right.
And we're having a lot of fun doing it, and people are liking it.
Yeah.
It was we always knew there was going to be that little bit of intrepidation at the start. Sadly, because Phil's not around anymore, it was never going to be that style, because Phil was Phil and
Mhm.
me and John's John. But people are starting to like it. People that weren't into Denigh
Mhm.
are liking it. So it's good, you know. It's just as I say, it's gone full circle. Sadly, Phil's not around. If Phil was around, I think he'd be involved in it and he'd be enjoying it.
Yeah.
I think he'd give it the big thumbs up.
Yeah.
Because I know from growing up with Phil that he had very similar tastes to me. So he wasn't just all about rock and heavy rock. You know,
No.
he had an ear for other styles of music as
Mhm.
well. So I think he would have been right into what we were doing.
Yeah. Mm.
Shame he's not on for the ride, but there
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah. 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 How far do you see this going? Do you see, or is it just one album to the next sort of thing, and just see where it goes until it stops
Uh,
being fun anymore?
yeah, I guess we'll do it until we're not enjoying doing it anymore, or one of us
Mm.
kills over, I guess.
That's fair enough. Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, there's plenty of 80-year-olds. I think Robert Fripp's 78 or something, 77 now,
Yeah,
and you know,
yeah,
there's a whole bunch of them out there still playing. And you see Bruce Dickinson, he's our era, and you know, he's still
yeah,
looping around the stage like a mad thing. So
yeah,
yeah, yeah. I
yeah.
suppose it's
Well, it's again, it's not. Um, there may come a time when John and I do contemplate stepping on the boards again and doing a gig.
okay.
It's not possible at the moment,
No,
but never
yeah.
say never. So,
No, no, no. But it'd be nice to see a live rendition of some of this material too, because it deserves it. It's fresh and interesting, which
yeah.
I find, which is terrific. Can't wait for the next one. I've heard some of the demos, which I'm not sure if I'm allowed to talk about, um, but it's certainly some interesting things
Yeah.
coming about there.
I meant to ask John, John, before we started this interview. I'm not sure what I can talk about.
Yeah, I'm sure Carl will say no, I need that edited out. So
Carl's
yeah,
sitting there
yeah.
going, no, no, no.
No, no, no. I have to know about sleep with no sound, but we'll take that offline, I think, and I'll edit that out, Carl. So we've kind of talked about what you've done already, and hinted at some of the things that are possibly coming in maybe a next album. Is there a temptation to go back and do some of the Denigh songs and revisit them like you did in the first album, or are you going to try and do all new material for the second album?
Oh, I don't think I'm giving any secrets away here. After this album that we're working on, we do plan to do an album after that, which is all going to be revamped Denigh classics, which we do have a title for. John's working on the artwork for, but I don't know whether I'm permitted to say
No.
so.
Okay, fair enough.
A
So
little
it's reimagined.
it will be obviously there's a couple of tracks that
Mhm.
we've already done, the Better Nails and
Yeah,
Foxy,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they'll be included. There's going to be a couple on this next album which we're doing, which will be included, but we'll also be doing a whole host of other songs. So
Yeah.
that's what's planned for the album after next, and we are sort of we're talking about it. I'm sketching ideas. John's already working on the artwork for it, so it's, you know, it's
in process.
It's already in the oven.
Right. Awesome. So I know some things I would like to hear.
Well, we have
And
discussed,
reimagined.
we have discussed Struck Down.
Okay. Walking
Is
the
there
streets.
I have done some work on Is There a Chance?
Is there a chance? Yeah.
Yes. And Walking the Streets is one of the ones that's penciled in to be done.
Oh, great. Oh, good. And looking forward to that. And that'll be this year?
Difficult to tell. We'll possibly get a single or two out this
Okay.
year. I don't know
Yeah.
about the whole album. Bitga, obviously that got incredibly hampered by COVID. But then I was made redundant from one job.
Oh,
and
okay.
rather than straight into another job, I actually took 3 months out
Right.
and worked solidly on the album. I have got work plans at the moment where I am going to be week on, week off. So hopefully that's going to speed the process up.
Right.
I can't envisage the album being finished this year, but certainly a couple of the tracks for single releases
Awesome.
will be more than likely.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about a bit about what else you've done? You mentioned other bands. You played with the band that did Ship of Fools. Is that right? Somebody somewhere told me that you were playing with that band who did the hit single Ship of Fools.
No,
So, no, that was new.
no.
Okay.
I auditioned for Jethro Tull.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, just after the Immaculate Falls thing.
Yeah.
It was in it was either Melody Maker or New Musical Express, you know, one of the old music papers, and there was just an advert, and it was international artist looking for keyboard player for major North American tour.
Wow.
I'd just come out of the Immaculate Falls thing. I'm sitting at home, so sent off a cassette tape, as it was in those days, with a couple of tracks off the Another Man's World album that I'd worked on with the Falls. Just sent it off out of the blue, and funnily enough, Martin Harris, we were talking to him, and he said one of the names he came up with. He said, you know, I'm sure I heard an interview with Ian Anderson the other day saying that they were preparing for a major tour. Anyway, that was just one of the things. Anyway, I was laying in the bath one night, and the phone goes, and I got dragged out the bath. There's a chap called Ian Anderson on the phone, wants to talk to you. And so I went off to Buckingham, somewhere in near Aylesbury or something like that, a church hall. Funny enough, you'd think Jethro Tull, you know, big band, audition in a church, in a village hall place. And they were a lovely set of guys. Ian Anderson, lovely fella. Had a good audition, but I didn't get the gig because one of the other keyboard players was from a named band. I can't remember the band, but I had a lovely letter off Ian. I've still got it somewhere.
Wow.
Off Ian Anderson saying that much as we enjoyed the audition, unfortunately, it's someone else. But that's probably my closest I've come to being, you know,
on a major tour. Yeah. Wow. Well, congratulations. That's a big deal. I mean, just to even have got an audition, that's amazing.
I don't know where the world party come.
No, I think it was probably somebody mixed up Ship of Fools with Immaculate Falls.
Yeah, that's yes.
Yeah. So when 40 years ago,
I mean, I'm
dredging these memories out.
I was a big world party fan, so I'd love to have played with them, but
okay,
no.
Actually their style would have suited you too, or your style would have suited them. Yeah. Let's look at it from that way.
Yes.
Yeah. How have you found songwriting? Has it changed for you over the years? Is it an easier process now, or with all the technology, or is it the same, or the ideas you still take notes on paper and then work out that way, or?
It's definitely much better now because with the digital age, now music it has become like a little bit of clay or putty, so you can mold it into anything you want. Whereas back in the day, you'd write your song and okay, you could change parts over, but you can't experiment in the way that you can in this day and age. So it's definitely improved
Yeah.
songwriting process.
Yeah, you can do as many takes as you like, and editing them's much easier than splicing
But the only
tape.
thing the only thing that hasn't changed, and anybody who's a songwriter or a music geek like me will understand, you've still the little song loops that are constantly going around in your head all day long. That doesn't change.
No.
Anybody who writes songs that, as I say, will understand that it's all about these little loops going around in your head all the time, and then you suddenly something falls into place and you get a song out of it.
Thanks for your time, Ian. It's fantastic talking to you again after 42 years. I look forward to doing this again. You do this again with us?
Yes, I'd hopefully live one day.
Yes, yes. Yeah, maybe next year. Yeah, there are plans. So yeah. So
Great.
maybe we'll come over. All right. Well, I'll catch you next time. Thanks for your time.
Okay, Paul. Nice
Cheers.
seeing you.
You too. Bye.